Hello, you're through to Warpstone TV, and today we're going to be painting Hive Fleet Behemoth, one of my personal favourite tendrils of the Tyranids, and I'll try and show you how to paint it tabletop standard. So, let's begin. So, to start off the Hormagaunt, we started with the standard grey matte finish from Colourforge. These are excellent paints. They're a lot bigger than Games Workshop's own Citadel paint range. The Colourforge can has 500 mils, whereas the Games Workshop one has about 400 mils for the same price. So what we're going to start off with is a Mephiston red base coat for all the flesh parts. So you need to get everywhere, like the tail, underneath the actual rib cage sort of thing. All these legs, the legs are the like sort of mainest bit on the Hormagaunt. It's because they stand out more than anything else, because they're all sort of leaping in midair. So after that base coat is dry for the skin, we're going to go on to the carapace, which we're going to start with Abaddon black, and make sure you get two thin coats on this, so then it sort of builds up the actual pigments in the paint. I know it's black, but you sometimes can see the other colours through black. So with Hive Fleet Behemoth, my sort of favourite thing to do with them is the fact that they're one of the first Hive Fleets to appear to fight the Imperium. But I also like the fact that they tried attacking Solomon's, which is a Necron tomb world controlled by Trazin, one of my favourite Necron characters. And basically they thought it wasn't worth it, which was big loss on there with all the artifacts on Solomon's, which could have been absorbed and then used against the whole of the Imperium. So that would have been fun to imagine. But now, once the black is dry, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to Nuln oil to shade all of the model. Just make sure you're getting all them crevices on the actual carapace and underneath his ribcage and on his face, so it shows more details, and you'll see your model pop out a bit more from just using a wash. So after about half an hour to an hour after the actual model's dried, what I'd recommend is to go back onto the base colour, which is Mephiston red, and use a small dry brush. And with a dry brush, all you need to do is just get a bit of your paint, dab it on a bit of tissue or whatever you've got, like a sponge, and then lightly brush the model so it highlights all the rougher edges. So next step, we're going to use Evil Sunz Scarlet, and we're just going to pick on them little edges of, say, his arms and towards his scythe and top of his legs, where the sun's going to hit the most, and at the top of his tail. Just think where you would want the light to hit on your model to actually put that on your model. Don't go off what I'm telling you all the time. Just go off where you would think it would be best for the model to have the light hit. And then you give some good contrast between the darker shades to the lighter parts of the model. So the next step is just a small step, you don't have to do it. So what I used here was Black Templar's contrast. And it's just to get all the little nickets in between his arm joints or his leg joints or just around his teeth, just so then it gives a different sort of darker tone from the Nuln oil. So we're going on to Caledor Sky now for the carapace. As I did in the last video of the Tamet, Hive Fleet Tamet, we did tiny little brush strokes all along the top of the carapace, just so it gives a textured look to the actual model between the actual skin to the carapace. So hopefully in the new codex that comes out on pre-order this week, I hope that Hive Fleet Behemoth get quite a decent buff. Especially in combat, like in the older codexes where they're more combat based compared to shooting, like Hive Fleet Kronos. Like, the meta list were Hive Fleet, Kronos and Kraken in tournaments. I used to run it myself. But what I am excited to see is more swarmy lists, loads of Termagants, loads of Gargoyles. That's what I'm hoping for in the new codex. Maybe a Hive Tyrant Wings gives you Gargoyles as troops. That would be amazing. I have 190 Gargoyles. I'd never use them because the codex at the moment was rubbish. But hopefully we get more swarmy lists. That's why they've changed it to a combat patrol with about 50 gaunts by the looks of it. So on the after that rant, on the next stage we're going to Teclis Blue, and we're just touching up an extra little bit of that blue, just so it gives an extra pop to the model, just so then when it's with 50 other Hormagaunts or how many you have on the table, they just look beautiful. When just put a bit more effort into the highlighting, your models look absolutely fantastic. So as you can see it, all I've done, just so it gives a little bit more of a definition to the scythes, I've added a bit of blue along the edges, not gone over the top with it, just so you can tell the difference of where the scythe is for the actual model. So that is it basically on the Hive Fleet Behemoth. Just a tabletop standard on how I would paint a whole army of them. What I've done here as well, just as a finisher, I've just added a bit of still and mud, and I've chopped up a bit of a coffee stirrer, so it looks a bit like wooden panels from, say, Death Corps of Krieg, and added a bit of a tuft of grass on there, just so it makes it stand out from, say, another 50 gaunts. But yeah, if you would like anything else painted, just mention it in the comments, and I would love to have some other suggestions on other types of models to paint. It doesn't have to be Games Workshop, it can be any brand, and I will give it a go and I'll see what I can make from it. But thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye bye.